Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have an opportunity to work on a reel that, well, it was previewed a week or so ago, and a lot of folks want to see the reel done, even though I've done a smaller version of this reel. So we'll do this one too. This is the Accurate Boss Fury 600. It's a lever drag reel. The reel is made in the United States by Accurate, and we're going to take this apart. We'll show you how to service the reel, show you how it's made, and get an idea about lever drags in general and how to service those as well. Well, we're going to start by taking off the exterior pieces, and this reel uses Torx screws, and I use a set of Torx screwdrivers to get that done. There's multiple different approaches to that. You can get a bit kit that has the Torx in them, or you can use the drivers, and I find the drivers are a little bit easier. But while I'm removing those screws, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel, and if you do subscribe to my channel, please use that notification button. My channel covers all aspects of fishing reel repair, and those include the different types of fishing reels that are popular: spinning, bait casting, lever drag like this one, conventional ocean reels, and so on. And you get a good understanding of who the manufacturers are, where the reels are made, what makes them unique, and kind of what makes them the same as well. As I'm taking out these screws, I'm putting them into a parts tray. I use a bottom of a fast food container for that purpose. And I also check, as I remove the screws, to make sure that all of the screws are the same size. If they're not the same size, I take a moment to identify where the longer or the shorter screws come from. Okay, well, we got another one over here. So I believe we have 2 shorts and 2 longs in this, because these aren't coming all the way out when I'm removing that side plate. All right, those 4 screws, 2 below and 2 on the side, should remove the side plate now. And for whatever reason, we've got a click ring that became detached in there. That's kind of odd. I'm not sure what caused that, but when we opened up the reel, well, you can see the click ring is detached. I don't see any damage to that, so we should be able to put that back together. That's an odd one. All right, you're not going to be able to remove the spool until you take the free spool adjuster off. So let's go do that. You'll do that by removing the adjuster in a counterclockwise manner. That took a while. That little rubber ring was kind of holding me on there. And then you should be able to lift off on the trailing arm. Take the ramp off. And there's a split ring under here that's holding the piece on there. Before I go any further, those 2 little screws are just kind of hanging there, and that's just an invitation to have them drop out on the floor or somewhere. So I'm going to take those 2 bottom screws and push those through. And that way I can put them into my parts tray so that they don't get lost. And those are a smaller screw. And then there's a little shield on this side, so we can take that shield off as well. Okay, that's the exterior side of this. Now we're going to need a split ring pliers to remove, the spool is out, remove the lever drag. Now you can remove that, or you can leave that. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to leave it. There's a ramp inside here you need to be aware of. This ramp, and that's critical to how you set the lever drive piece. Behind here, the only reason I said leave it on, behind here, the only thing that's there is a Teflon washer, and they don't wear. All right, I'm going to put that back in. Again, when we go to reinstall, it's going to be critical to how this goes. And actually what we can do is we can take that out. I'll show you how it nests. When we go to reinstall, you're going to notice that there is two sides to this, and that is how it's going to nest. And as you pull up on your lever, that's what's going to pull the spool in to connect the drag. I'll leave those together for now. All right, the main gear comes off next then. We'll service the gear side first. Looks like I have the wrong one, but it looks like it's loose anyway. And there you go. Take the handle off. And this is a good place to tell you to take pictures. So if you're working on your reel for the first time and you don't know the sequence of this reel or how it comes together or how it comes apart, take a picture. We're going to remove the handle. There's another Teflon washer. There's two Teflon washers under here. I'm going to put those pieces together in the bucket. And now your main gear can come out. We'll push that stem through and we'll pull the gear out. This one has an instant anti-reverse in it. What we want to do is we want to clean the case. Get all the old greases out. You can use a penetrating oil as a solvent, but whatever you do, make sure you get the old greases out of there. They harbor a lot of old dirt and debris, and if you don't take care of it, it could spread it and contaminate the reel later. I use Q-tips, paper towels, soft type of things to clean. You don't want to get yourself in a situation where you're using something abrasive if you can avoid it. On the instant anti-reverse, just clean the channels. That does not get a lubrication. And this is your pinion gear and a sealed bearing. So sealed bearings you really can't do too much with. If you want, you can throw some oil on there. It'll help keep the dirt and debris out of there. There's two sides to that main gear. Notice that you have one side that has the plastics and the like. That's going to be the inside. We're going to clean the main gear just like we did the channels. Wipe it off and then inspect the teeth. Now, a good way to do that is to use a soft brush. Just pull it through to make sure all those channels on the teeth are clean. You have a series of those Teflons. I'll take those off. It's hard to mess that up if you took pictures because, well, there's a square side that faces out. We'll go ahead and put these two back in. Now we're going to just take that shaft and do the same thing. We'll put the shaft back on. Work your pieces over that shaft. Seat it into the square, and then get some fishing wheel grease and grease the teeth of the main gear. So you should take pictures if you're not familiar with the reel, because that will tell you the orientation and the way that the pieces and parts go. This is relatively easy now. This will just go back in. You do not grease the shaft. That's a friction-driven anti-reverse clutch. So you do want to make sure that when you do that, you do it correctly. All right, just going to push that down here. That's the water seal for it. And then this, it's hard to mess up, but if you've lost your way with this one, there's a square side on this and there's a rounded side. The rounded side is what's going to go in the bearing, and the square side is going to go into the drive for the spool. I prefer, when I load, we're going to load with the piece on the bearing. It's always on the spool side. It's always easier for me to do it that way. All right, there's 4 small screws, so I guess this is a micro project here. I'm going to grab my small screwdriver. I have a set of micro screwdrivers here, and we'll take those 4 screws out. Again, another good place for a picture. Underneath here will be a pressure plate and a bearing and a spring and things like that. So take the pictures, that way it'll help you understand where they go back when it's time to reinstall. I'm laying the screws on my table first. The screws will help me to identify if there's a long or a short one. And if there is, you just want to mark the place. I just got a question in on the forum. Basically said I got screws that are sticking out too far. Well, that's almost always the wrong location of a screw. Could be something else. And once I do that, those screws are so small, I want to get those right into my parts tray so that I don't lose them. We should be able to remove the pressure plate, our cover now. Here's your pressure plate, your drag washer, and cleanup time, right? There's a spring that's on the main shaft, and we'll put that into the carrier, and then I should be able to remove the shaft and the backside bearing. Just inspect them, make sure they're all clean. We're going to oil that backside bearing. I'm going to oil the front side as well. You can remove those if you like. Going to wipe down all the excess that's worn off the drag. Now there's only one side of this that's a drag. The other side is stationary against that inset there. It's held in place, it won't move. You can do 2 things on this. The side that's been down is a new side. If you had a worn drag, just flip it over. You don't need to order a new one. This one I think is just clogged with some old dirt. So I'm just going to take that hard brush again and just pull it through so that I can see the cross hatching on the drag washer. Just like that. That's how you clean that up. As long as you can see the cross hatching, then it's not worn, then it's good to go. You do not need to replace it. All right, we'll just put that right back in. Going to clean the back side of your pressure plate. Again, it's just got some debris on there from the worn drag washers. There's a bearing in here, so oil the bearing as well. And then we can go ahead and reassemble. It's pretty much that easy in terms of the spool work. And we knocked that bearing out anyway. There's a little washer if you knock it out, don't worry. Now let's go ahead and take that back again. Place the bearing in the cavity. That little washer goes over the top. The spring will ride on that washer. You go to your parts tray, get the spring. And we put our pressure plate on, kind of reversing what we just did. Now we'll get our plastic carrier and line that up with your screw holes. Go to your parts tray. And this is always the part that's tough for me. Those of you that have been watching for time now know that me and small parts don't play well together. In this case, there's a little recess there, so I'm able to put that back in. But while we're doing that, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, if you leave those questions in the comment section of this, I will try and do my best to answer that for you. I got a lot of experience, and maybe my experience can help you get unstuck in your reel service or repair. All right, one more here. One of the questions I get all the time is, what tools should I have? And I think by watching the video, you'll see the ones that I commonly use. And you don't have to run out and get a bunch of tools. I would say just get them as you need them. but there are a couple of, the basics. You want to get a set of open-end box wrenches, a good set of pliers and screwdrivers. And for the most part, you'll get by with that. I did a video on one that's pretty much indispensable in my shop, and that's a micro pliers. But you don't need to rush out if you're just starting wheel repair. You don't need to rush out and get every piece of tool that you see here. Just use them, go get them as you need them. That'll be the best way to do it. All right, I'm just gonna line up this pinion gear. A little bit of grease onto the pinion gear. And we can start the reassembly. Before we do that though, if you recall, the back end of this has got a click that somehow became detached. I'm not sure how that was, if somebody intentionally disabled it, but if you intentionally disable it, well, one thing you're not going to do is leave the screws in there, so I kind of get a little bit confused about that. But what we'll do is we're going to align the clicker pointing down. That's going to go in this slot here. We run that over the top. And we have to kind of spread its wings. Like that. And then we can align the holes with that clicker with the screw holes. Get the screws out of it. This is one of the more curious things I've found in the reel. This is again another micro driver. And we can just put that in. Fortunately, the friction of the micro driver is holding that screw, because again, these are little ones that are tough on me. All right, there you go. So we have restored the click function to this. I like to put that in the off position now. Let's go ahead and take the main gear and the spool assembly and all that other good stuff here. We're going to take the pin and we're going to separate that on both sides there. Here, this line is going to get in the way here. So what I'll do is I'm going to put a rubber band on that. I recommend changing the line when you have your reel serviced, but if a customer sends the reel in with line, I'm not going to remove it. For all I know, they put the line on last week. So we'll just tie it off like that so that it can't get in the way as you can go put it in the frame. And we insert. Just like that. You need to make sure that the crossbar goes in that set. I'm going to do two things. We're going to set this to the off position, or free spool position, and we should be able to merge both pieces in. Then we need to align the holes. There are two small holes on the one side. That's the best way to find them. That should be it. And I'm going to take the two long screws. I'm going to put one of those in first. Let's go back to our driver. As soon as you get that screw started, that's when I like to go back and put the other piece back in. Kind of hard to do. It just sits on the rim. Just like that. Then close it up. And now we can put the rest of the screws in. There we go, that'll hold that one. One on the other side now. And there'll be one more. And of course we got to tighten down the first one that we put in. So that's how you close the case back up. And we should have a nice spinning wheel right now. And we do. All the bearings have been oiled, cleaned, and the like. So now it's a matter of just installing the balance of this. As I mentioned, we have this little piece here. It's got two things going on it. One of them is a little insert right here. You may or may not be able to see it. It's a flat spot. Inside your lever itself is going to be corresponding flat spots, one on each side. That's where these go. You must match them up. And you will know you're in when it's flat on the bottom all the way around. If it's not flat on the bottom, then you didn't get it installed correctly. You need to go reset. Next up then, we have the carrier, which has the two pins on it. And those are going to go in the gullies. We showed you those before, right here. So as you go to align this, find the gully. And then that nut, that hex piece on the end of the spool there, well, you need to work it to get over that. You will know that's correct when you have a little bit of a lip there on the adjuster. Okay, now our preset adjuster goes on. And just get it started. We'll adjust it in a moment. Got a couple more things to do. We've got the two washers that came with this. I'm assuming they were put on the plant that way. Sometimes you get a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. We're going to use our handle nut here to pull that through. Okay, we got two more screws here. Those are the tie downs for that handle nut. And for whatever reason they decided they were going to change the internal head on it. So you have to go to the bigger Torx. One more. My parts tray is empty. That's always a good sign. If you have any parts in your tray at this point, you probably forgot to put something somewhere, and go back and check your work, check your pictures, figure out why that is what that is. All right, so we spin first. We make sure we're good in the free spool, which we are. Now let's move it up the strike channel. The handle's turning. And we're in max. So depending on how you want to run this, you can adjust one way or another. Let's check the clicker. We got a nice clicker now. And if you want a little bit less drag, if you go to adjust, bring it all the way back down, and then back it off. Free spool, first strike, max drag, right? That's how it works. That's your Boss Fury 600 by Accurate. And it's a nice reel overall. I kind of like these reels. And as you saw, not that difficult to work on once you get the hang of a lever drag reel. To our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you do to keep us safe. Your efforts truly are appreciated. To everyone, thanks for watching. I wish you all well and great fishing. Get your reels ready. It's getting time to get out there on the water. And getting those reels ready and prepped now is going to be a reason why you'll be successful later. You won't have to worry about a reel breaking during the fight of a lifetime. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day. Thanks for watching.